Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here to speak about our favorite subject of VCTV, and that is fintech and blockchain. A lot to cover as we know these industries are changing by the millisecond, and we've brought together some of the best and the brightest to share with us their on-the-ground perspective of what they're seeing happening or not happening in these industries, and we'll be sharing that with you in just a moment. But as we like to do on these episodes is read some of the big headlines because so much is happening. It's good to keep you up to date in addition to what we're about to talk about. So just today, here's a quick headline run for what's happening in fintech and blockchain. Number one, Bitcoin payment system, Bitcoin payment startup, BitPay, is looking to create a national bank in Georgia. It's a growing trend we've seen here in 2020 and one we'll probably see more in 2021 as more banks start to arise from this area. Standard Chartered is set to launch institutional grade crypto custody in 2021. Fidelity Digital Assets is now allowing institutional consumers to use Bitcoin as collateral against cash loans, something we may have seen before in the decentralized finance space. Again, we'll be back on that in just a moment. Bitwise has listed their crypto index fund on OTC markets available today. Spanish banking giant BBVA is looking to potentially start doing trading and custody solutions. Teen banking startup Step has recently raised $50 million and has seen over 500,000 users join the platform just 2 months after launch. And last but not least, Stripe has announced embedding business services and their new Stripe treasury service as well. So tons happening. These are just some of the biggest headlines that we've seen over the past 24 hours in some cases happening in this industry. But let's get to today's topic and make sure we get a chance to introduce each of our investors who've joined us today. But before we do, big thank you to you, our audience. If you're liking what you hear today, click that big red subscribe button to tune in all day, every day to all episodes of VCTV. And if you'd like to be on VCTV to share your thoughts and insights about different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, please reach out and we would love to have you. And same for you, entrepreneurs. What better way to end and start a year than joining us on the virtual stage here at VCTV. A big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest today. Sam, welcome back to the show. A little intro and a little background for everybody.
Hello, Kyle, and hello, everybody. Good to be here. Sam Yilmaz, general partner to Blockcelerate. We are a Seattle-based venture fund investing in blockchain-powered scalable software companies. We have a focus in enterprise adoption of the technology, updating, upgrading workflows in capital markets, financial markets, and other enterprise use cases such as asset tracking, keeping track of liabilities and obligations among enterprises and also within enterprises.
Wonderful. Well, welcome back, Sam. Excited to dive into some of that today for you as well. And Adrian, welcome back. A little intro, a little background.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Kyle, for another invitation. Happy to be here in the family. It's a family gathering. I like this. My name is Edwin Niculescu. I'm involved in a few projects. CloudCoin Consortium. CloudCoin is a post-blockchain digital currency. I recruit startups from Romania and the UK mostly for Faster Capital, which is a Dubai-based accelerator and incubator for companies, and a mentor in Richard Branson's Virgin Startups, apart from other roles as advisor, mentor, or investor in other projects. Happy to be here and contribute.
Wonderful. Happy to have you. And last but not least, Anuj, welcome back as well. A little intro, a little background.
Thank you so much, mate. Great to be back. Introducing myself, I'm a startup founder. I've founded 3 startups in the past. Over the last 1 decade, along with it, I'm working as an international partner at World Business Angel Forum, where we are working towards promoting global financial inclusivity as a G20 initiative and entrepreneurship across the world. I'm also working with iAngels in Israel for angel investments, along with a family fund based in Buffalo, New York.
Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, again, welcome all to the show today. Read a few headlines, ton happening in this space, but let's dive in from your perspective, not just the headline world, but what are you all seeing in terms of the current state of fintech and blockchain? We had Ethereum 2.0 just released about a week ago. We've got a ton happening in this space as we're closing out the year, looking towards the next. Anuj, let's start with you. What's your on-the-ground perspective of happening in fintech and blockchain?
So, Kyle, I'll start off with the text that I sent you a week ago. I told you we got to talk about it, mate. So yeah, I don't know if you've shared that as one of the headlines, but it was a massive step that Visa coming in, offering in a credit card that instead of offering miles or cashback or any other reward system is actually offering Bitcoins to its user to incentivize it. It's a monumental step, not just for BlockFi, the company that's actually launching that card in partnership with Visa, but for the industry altogether. It's one of those landmark moments. One thing which I have always said that in 2020 is different from the 2017 run in fintech and in blockchain is in 2017, there were a lot of companies coming in saying, I'm going to replace this existing system altogether. I'm going to Ripple saying, I'm going to replace Swift, or blockchain being, we are going to replace centralized currency altogether. That's not how it works. A good product, a good startup always looks to collaborate to elevate the existing system, not to replace it. And that's something which is now being accepted more and more over the last couple of years in the industry, where banks are finally accepting the new reality. They are finally preparing for it. They more or less they have accepted that, yeah, if we don't do anything now, it's going to be a Kodak moment. Either we switch to digital cameras or we go bankrupt. They smartly chosen the latter. Visa choosing to work with BlockFi to offer Bitcoins as a reward is, one, going to promote adoption, two, make it a more, I would say, a technology of nerds to a more common use application where it goes from being just another thing that that your crazy workplace colleague talks to you about and tries to get you all hyped up, to actually being something valuable. And yeah, that's a ground reality. Like you say, every time things are changing by the minute, things are changing by the second, and every second's better than the last one, mate.
It's very true. I mean, this is why we continue to cover this subject every week, if not multiple times a week here on VCTV, and also because these two industries are intersecting with so many other industries as well, right? So from a fintech perspective, but then also from a blockchain or DLT perspective, we're seeing how that technology is moving more and more ingrained into other industries, companies, products, and services as well. But we're going to pause on that. And great point. Thank you for bringing up around Visa, Visa's ecosystem and their efforts around blockchain and the DLT space has exploded in the second half of 2020. In the first half, it was very secretive, very what? Maybe a little teasing here, a little teasing there, a job posting here, a job posting there. And now all of a sudden they're starting to get vocal. They've got their fast track program, which is now working with several startups and of all sizes, I should say, from early stage all the way up to, in some cases, pre-IPO, if not even bigger, to integrate into their entire infrastructure, because it seems they want to be the network. They want to be the picks and shovels. They want to be it all. And we'll see how that rolls out, to Anuj's point. Sam, to you, on the ground perspective, what are you seeing from your perspective, but also Blockcelerate? You guys are one of the leading investors in the industry when it comes to the blockchain side of things. What are you seeing happening as the current state in these two industries?
Right. To speak to maybe the DeFi gaining in greater adoption, which is a great intersection of fintech and blockchain. I'm seeing some very interesting applications recently, likes of Open and Hedgic, that are bringing on more open access to an easier implementation of derivatives on the blockchain. Um, Clearly, greater adoption of stable coins by the minute, and assets locked in DeFi have surpassed $30 billion. So that's definitely a great area of growth. And you know, we can see things will double in the next year, if not more, going forward. And it's likely that it's a trend that will be here to stay. And speaking more to the enterprise adoption, maybe services delivered not by DAOs, but companies that are being implemented in enterprise cases. We're seeing more work towards issuance of assets on the blockchain, and these revolve around bonds and corporate bonds, exchanging of financial data between data aggregators and index funds. Um, we are also seeing interesting implementations of B2B payments, whereas Square, Stripe, PayPal have taken great measures in making it easy for B2C payments, B2P payments, um, white collar crimes around identity verification inside enterprises, the wire and ACH transfer frauds can be in large part remediated with utilization of blockchain. And we're looking at a few companies in that domain. Um, Clearly, we've also invested in a Symbiont, which is a financial and capital markets use case application of blockchain. And we're looking at a few others that seem very promising. And I would encourage both DeFi application developers and enterprise blockchain developers to come and meet us. Happy to take meetings and find out more about the implementations that we recently did our last close, and we'll be deploying capital to another 8 or 9 companies in the next 12 months or so.
So let's go a level deeper on enterprise. Enterprise is becoming a fun, exciting topic.
Sure.
When in the past it hasn't been around the blockchain DLT side. What are you seeing specifically in blockchain around enterprise that you see as exciting opportunities that people should be focusing on, or that you're looking for as well, that may be gaps in the market?
Right. So in large part, the macroscopic argument is when there is a need for consensus over the wire, there's a need for blockchain. And what is it that we need to get to consensus on is what dictates the use case. At times, it's who has the authority to sign for what inside a company, which is a signature authority list that might be generated by the corporate secretary. And companies that are larger organizations at times have trouble identifying who's the right person inside our company to be signing on a document. And a counterparty might need to verify who are the people that we're getting signatures from have in possession of the power to obligate the company to sign on to such a document. So that's an aspect that occasionally we might need to check that we are in consensus, that the right people are signing on to the right kinds of documents. So that would be a governance use case, and within that, a signature management. Another one might be who has access to what data inside an enterprise. So we might need to gain consensus on that. So having a ledger that says, here are the devices and identities of the people, and here are the data sources for where the enterprise relevant data is stored. And we need to map out who has access to what and be able to audit that, verify that. So data access management is another interesting use case. Some focus areas, without elaborating on the details for us, are corporate governance, data access management, issuance of assets, doing trade finance and credit risk, accounts receivable, dynamic discounting, all the ways that trade finance is generally thought about, and then microfinance use cases recently.
Got it. Thank you very much, Sam. Adrian, to you, current state, what are you seeing? What are you not seeing in terms of your on the ground perspective in these two industries as they're changing right now?
I'm looking at something very interesting, which is supposed to happen in 2021. The S&P Dow Jones indices to launch crypto indexes next year. This will add massive, not necessarily legitimacy, but massive mass awareness to the crypto market. And I believe it's very late to discuss about Bitcoin as a payment coin, but Bitcoin will lead the digital asset part of the crypto, and I believe more and more institutional money will come and will buy as much Bitcoin possible. So the scarcity of Bitcoin will become bigger and bigger, and the price will explode. And I think that Bitcoin is pretty separated from the rest of the market. Now it has its own way. It's not like, okay, Bitcoin is rising, all the other coins are following. It's not like that. And if we are looking, for example, at how, let's say, Bitcoin Cash evolved over the last 3 years, or how Ethereum Classic evolved over the last 3 years, compared Ethereum Classic with Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash with Bitcoin, we'll see that first, as mentioned, Bitcoin has its own way right now, and Ethereum is not an altcoin anymore.
And thank you, Adrian. The crypto index fund is very interesting, as some of the headlines I read are leading right into that, if not jumping ahead of that announcement recently as well. And Anuj, coming to you, I mean, where are you seeing areas of opportunity as you're looking at all of these different areas? You called out Visa, you've called out a few other companies. You have an experience in the fintech space doing some amazing things in Southeast Asia and specifically around India. But where do you see the areas of opportunity to build and to invest over really the next 12 months? I mean, things are about to get moving very fast here in the next few weeks.
So it's almost the most wonderful time of the year. So with that theme,
Anuj, is there any way you can approach the microphone? Okay, great.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you a little better now. Yep.
Perfect. So sorry about that, man. But yeah, as I was saying, one of the key areas where I'm seeing major improvements happening that we are actively involved in is in peer-to-peer systems, peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer payment systems. Those two are going to be very active in the post-pandemic era. Part of the reason is not in terms of a new advancement in technology per se, but a shift in a cultural approach. Asia and African markets are very culture driven. There are some traditions that are involved. There are some of the ways that people in a particular region work. And the whole pandemic situation, the whole lockdown has changed those habits, if I may say. One of the most common things in the Indian society, at least, so for 1.3 billion people, but that's also prevalent in Myanmar, in Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and other Southeast Asian countries, is something called as a chit fund, where you have a small community of around 24 to 30 odd people coming in together who don't have a bank per se. So there is no liability, there is no written contracts that are signed, but they choose to amicably decide amongst themselves to put in a fixed amount every month, and one of the members can withdraw that amount every month. So it's creating that, the community is creating that pool for themselves, and as and when someone needs it, if someone needs it at a high at more urgently, or if my needs are greater than the other person, I may choose to pick up that amount by paying a premium, and then by taking in a smaller amount. Those kinds of things happen within a community.
Mhm.
And usually these kinds of things would happen over a monthly meeting where everyone in the society would just gather around for like some foods or drink for a couple of hours, as a way of escaping their life, as well as a way of getting together. But
Mhm.
one of the key factors over this last 9 months, if I may say, has been these things happening virtually.
Mhm.
Yes, there will be time where people would want to meet, but one of the key arenas that I'm seeing would be some product development, which are now trying to not take a product to a mass audience where you have 200 or 300 million users in one ecosystem, but you have an entire ecosystem with very small bubbles of around 20 or 30 odd users interlinked to each other, not communicating with the different cities. So me sitting in North India, I would definitely not be comfortable over just a verbal agreement with someone in the other part of the country for the next 3 years. It
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. So it's not something that I'm seeing where people would be interlinked to each other, but that intralinking, that smaller bubble that's happening within a bigger ecosystem, and the product development that's happening along those lines. Peer-to-peer lending systems coming up in countries where you still have banks that take approximately 3 days to make an online transfer, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Sitting in India, if I was to make a transfer right now from my account to another person, it's instant. Be it at 3 a.m. in the morning, I can
Mhm.
do that,
Mhm.
and within the next 5 seconds, it will be in the other person's account. That's a luxury which they don't have at the moment. So new startups coming in that are changing that are bringing that system in real time instead of
Mhm.
3 days, is taking away those banks customers. It's building those ecosystem in itself, and that's where things are going to get interesting. That's where you're going to see more adoption, different
Mhm.
communities taking in different products. So probably a startup in India that builds those ecosystem will only have users in northern India. Likewise, someone building that same system in South India would be able to capture that South India market.
Mhm.
So there
Mhm.
is market for everyone. It's just we just have to see how people capture it.
Yeah, that's a good
Uh,
question. Sam, go ahead.
yeah, just wanted to add, I think the emergence of central bank-backed digital currencies and stable coins will have a large impact in those kinds of community organized, self-organizing modalities, whether it's in contributing to a communal fund or everybody contributing to the wallet of one person and they agree they're a group of 30 and they rotate, or maybe they aggregate funds to buy something for the community all together. So these kinds of tools for self-organization um, will benefit from the rise of stablecoins and tokens that have that immutable record, and people will have an easier time recognizing the memory function of money a little better.
Mhm. And with that, Sam, looking at 2021, let's talk about CBDC, central bank digital currencies, as you brought those up. What's your prediction going into next year as to what really can happen with those? We've got a ton of conversation of countries looking to launch those, planning to launching those. We've only got a few that have launched officially or unofficially, from Singapore to Cambodia. China will consider as well in that category on the digital yuan. Um, they're all very different in their makeup as well. But as we move into 2021, what does this look like? Do regulators get involved? Do they not? Do we see the same structures? Do we see different structures? Do we really see this taking place, or is this more of a 3-year bet? What are some of your predictions looking to the year ahead around CBDCs?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do think regulators will be involved, and there will be some updates to the legislature around and regulations around currency and payments. There will inevitably be a disintermediation of some of the intermediaries in the banking and financial services space as a byproduct of greater utilization. The main incentives for a government to issue stable coins would be better tracking of the monetary supply, how are banks responding to interest rates, how is the velocity of money inside the country, as a greater indication of community health, so to speak. Even if we were to think of a nation as a community, money behavior, as you can more easily track it, will be indicative of population health, social health,
Mhm.
and variety of factors.
Mhm.
Um, and there was also maybe a third component to your question. Is a 1 year bet or a 3 year bet?
Yeah.
It's hard to say how many will be onboarded in this year, in the coming year versus the year after, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was north of 50 countries that have their fully functional central bank digital currencies in the
Mhm.
next 3 years.
And Sam, a follow-up question for you. I mean, Block Accelerate, you guys have just raised and closed your latest fund. What made you want to raise another fund focused on the industry of blockchain and DLT and a little bit else outside of that bubble as well? For those
Yeah.
investors who may be looking at getting in this for the first time, it's good to know that you are now on your second or third fund and looking at this space as a heavy bet. So what made you and the team want to go after this?
Right. We recognize that the last decade of blockchain was very heavily around cryptocurrencies and tokenization, um, for the retail usage, which is a very healthy incentive. It creates uh, a greater means for everybody to participate in the financial markets. It reduces the barriers, shortens the walls, to holding different kinds of assets. If you want to have a um, exposure to the dollar, you can buy and hold DAI without having to rely on a you know PayPal equivalent that may or may not be in your jurisdiction. Um, and then in the enterprise, we see that there's this greater trend that will unfold in the next decade, which this fund is primarily formed to capitalize on, which is there is a lot of operational inefficiencies and workflows of people working inside enterprises. Mainly that revolves around just not having the same version of truth that we're looking at. I was maybe if you're asking about somebody coming to the space anew, what's blockchain, why will it be worthwhile in enterprise? It's like this: imagine you have a newspaper that everybody has the same version of text in it, which is what we are able to achieve with you know websites or press. But what if
Mhm.
you could change the feed on the website, and that everybody is still seeing it, and then you could also immutably verify what it was a minute ago or 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, um, and that, guess what, you don't have to go to the publishers to make sure that you have the most recent version of the newspaper, but yourself that there's nothing out there in the consensus reality on the planet that will change without your version of truth also being updated. It's like having a Hogwarts, magazine, a newspaper that reflects only the latest state of affairs and everybody else sees the same thing. You can do version control on it. You can scroll back and see what it used to be. So it's kind of magical in that way.
Mhm.
So,
And
mhm.
sorry, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
Yeah, in the case of, was that invoice sent? Was that invoice received? Was that invoice paid for? Was it paid for in part? Was that paid for in part subject to some other condition? Um, and then these kinds of transactions get complex and hard to track, especially when it's not just two people remembering the same history and sharing in on it. And when there are multiplicity of stakeholders, our ability to tell the same version of truth gets harder and harder. So that Hogwarts magazine comes in handy.
That's a great point. And Adrian, I want to come to you as well. Areas of opportunity that you're seeing in the industry. Thank you, Sam. That people should be aware of as they're looking to make their first step into the industry, and maybe in 2021.
To address this, I would like to refer to a headline about Revolut buying a software company which will allow its users to take card payments online. So basically, they will start to compete with Stripe or with Adyen, but in the same time, Stripe is enlarging what they are doing to enter into Revolut space. So the one of the biggest opportunities I'm seeing is what these platforms want. They want to keep the users and to offer as many from 360 degrees types of services. So I see huge opportunities in these umbrella types of platforms, because until recently everybody wanted to specialize on one thing, and it worked very well. Now the market being developed, it's pretty easier than 5 years ago to create like an umbrella company to serve more areas, because you can see in the history what worked, what didn't work, and this is very easy to model what other people are doing with the pretty small costs. So I see huge opportunities in new brands, new companies becoming like umbrella companies offering these services. And of course, I'm looking to see which will be the new standards like Visa, MasterCard, and American Express, which will be on the cards, because uh, um, um, they are somewhere, but we need to spot them. They are in conception right now, and I'm looking for them.
And that's a great point as well, and what we all should be watching for. Again, watching these, network operators and traditional companies move into this space, and who's going to make big moves or small moves, and how those get reflected to us as consumers as well. Anuj, I want to come to you. Closing thoughts. Anything else to add around today's subject as we come close to the top of the hour here? But then also, where can you be found to continue the conversation online?
So echoing my thoughts for this entire year that I've been saying for
If you can, just
every
a little
session now.
closer to. There you go.
Yeah, it's something with my mic, mate. I'm so sorry. It happens. Something happens to it. But yeah, echoing my thoughts that I've been saying for the last 1 year. 2020, it's a landmark year. It's a time machine that has taken us from 2019 and dropped us into a distant future where tech adoption has happened much faster than it would have any other time. And right now, any company that's coming in that's keeping the user as the center, that's bringing the user obsession from Jeff Bezos into any of their own products would be the winner. If you are someone that's doing that, drop me a text on LinkedIn. You can pretty easily find me. My name is at the bottom left of the screen. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at Anuj, that's ANUUJ, or you can reach out to me, Anuj at yellowsapphiretech.com. Drop me an email. Would be happy to help.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Adrian, back to you. Any other closing thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with today on the subject of fintech and blockchain? And then where can you be found online?
We need to strive to develop our financial IQ even more than ever. We need to upgrade this part of our mind, because it's like it's the most important part, to be able to understand this new world and to see where it's going. I can found on LinkedIn. I answer to all messages. You can find me there very easy, Adrian Niculescu, and I'm happy to help in any way I can, and can wait to come back to VCTV.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adrian. Sam, close us out. Last closing thoughts, and
Sure.
where can you be found to continue the conversation?
Yes, closing thoughts. I encourage all entrepreneurs to reach out and see if we could work together. We are actively deploying capital in blockchain projects and companies. I'm in the space because it's a fresh breath of air, and its novelty and the impact it could deliver and the disruptive tech inflection point that it is, and that could generate a tremendous amount of wealth. So happy to connect with any and everyone. I can be reached at the company website and info@blockcelerate.vc, also LinkedIn. If I don't get to responding, don't hesitate to message for a second time. Just sometimes communication channels might be overloaded, but always happy to connect.
Wonderful. Adrian, Anuj, Sam, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and insights and your on-the-ground perspective around fintech and blockchain. Lots more to talk about, and we'll have each of you back to continue these conversations over the next few weeks here on VCTV. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you hear, click that big red subscribe button, give us a thumbs up as well. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today, speaking about fintech and blockchain or other industries, regions, and topics as well. Thank you, Sam and Adrian. We'd love to have you, so do reach out. We'll find the right set of investors and also panel for you to speak on. Entrepreneurs, what better way to end the year than start the next than joining us on the virtual stage we have here at VCTV. Reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you. Last but not least, that team. Thank you. A huge shout out as well to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. You can find Adrian, Anuj, and Sam online 24/7, 365, as they mentioned. You can find me at Kyle Ellicott on all social media platforms. Do reach out to continue the conversation, but remember to add context so we know where you met us, heard us, and or what you would like to speak about as well. With that, I'm your host, and we'll be back here tomorrow with more VCTV. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, folks. Bye for now.
Bye.